Reading from rhythmsofplay.com. Gratitude is the cure, and gratitude journal prompts can help remind children and adults of all the things that they have to be grateful for. Use this list of free printable gratitude journal prompt ideas to help kids learn how to practice gratitude for life. What is gratitude? Gratitude is about noticing and expressing appreciation for all the good things in life that bring you joy. In other words, being grateful is about focusing upon the blessings in life instead of focusing attention on the negative aspects of life, social media, and what one does not have. Practice gratitude is researched to be associated with increased levels of happiness, well-being, and fulfillment. Gratitude brings abundance. When we focus more on the positive aspects of life and what we have that brings us joy, we can find greater happiness in life. I found somebody who practices gratitude on a daily basis with journaling. Say good afternoon or good morning, whenever you choose to watch this video. And I'm here with someone who was one of my Multifaith Program Coordinators over the last couple of years. And her name is Annaliese, heading into her 4th year of biology. And hello.
Hello.
And yeah, we are going to talk a little bit around the spiritual practice of journaling today. But Annaliese, before we get started, I have a question I love to ask all my people. And a lot of the people I've interviewed are quite a bit older than you. So I'm not sure how this question will work, but I want to stick with the same question. The question is, what would 18-year-old you think about the you today?
I have to think back 2 years only.
2 years!
I do think I've grown more. I'm a little bit more comfortable with myself, and I am really starting to value investing in relationships. When you study really hard, sometimes it can be easy to let those things slide, but those can also be the most educational and enlightening experiences and important for your mental and physical health. So I think I've loosened up a little bit, become more comfortable with myself in the world.
Yeah, well, there we go. And I think that's right. There is some idea that there's more than just the studies going on, which is not to say don't study. But yeah, no, I think that's a very good answer. Thank you very much. Yeah, yeah. Well, we were going to talk a little bit around journaling, spiritual practices during these isolation times, and what helps us sort of build up that inner capacity to continue to function. And I have a quote from a book called Navigating the Coming Chaos. And the quote goes, "Journaling is not a log or daily event or a diary." Example, I woke up and took a shower, took the kids to school, went to work, ate lunch with Joe. It's actually a place to record and appreciate feelings that surface around daily experiences, or to record moments of inspiration, insight, turbulence, uncertainty, or any other feelings. It is a place to become transparent with oneself and, in some cases, brutally honest. Getting the words out of one's head and on paper is a courageous act of crossing a psychic line, a point of no return. Once I've put the words on paper, there's no denying, no taking them back, and no minimizing. I can choose to modify or question them, but now they are no longer just swimming around in my head. They are real, tangible, external evidence of my inner experience. So what do you think of that quote there, as somebody who does some journaling? And tell us a bit about your journaling, what you do with journaling.
There's a few things I can really appreciate from that quote. One is just the journaling is a great opportunity to reflect on your day or even an hour or your life, kind of gain some perspective and express your appreciation for things that you might take for granted. And I also can really appreciate the fact that journaling is an opportunity to sort through some things and to get those thoughts that were swirling in your head onto paper, so you can actually use logic to maybe assess your thoughts or to unpack difficult things. So I really like writing gratitude lists. I try to do them every evening. Even just when I'm really busy, I just pick 3 things that I'm grateful for, either in the day or in my life. And I think that's an important way to kind of check back in with yourself, especially when you're really caught up in busy times, or now with COVID. It can be easy to get caught up in the news, but just to check back in with yourself, it's important.
Yeah,
So
can
for
you
example,
walk me
my
through that a
list,
little bit, exactly what that looks like? So it's like the evening, you finish supper, you have a special time, a special place, or just the book is lying around.
yeah, I actually like to do it before bedtime. So I'll write my little list of three things and, think about it if I need to do more thinking or writing. And then I would read probably 15 to 20 minutes of a book to try to turn off my brain. So that's also an important part of the routine. I think after you reflect on these things, you also need to put them away so you can get to sleep. Um, so that's how I like to do it.
Right, sort of kind of a bit of a palate cleanser. I actually took a course right when COVID started about how to handle anxiety. And one thing it talked about was you want to take in all the data that's important to look at, which is reality, but then you also need to plan some sort of palate cleanser afterwards,
Yeah,
because just like all the bad news of the day put into a 20-minute segment is not the full reality of life, right? So,
right.
yeah. So you've got
And I think
a, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think, journaling can help you also realize that. But sometimes if it was a very emotional day, you might need to write that down and sort through it, but then somehow um, separate yourself from that again, especially
Right.
if it's right before bed, right?
So I'm hearing sort of two parts to your journaling. Then one is this sort of gratitude, and we'll talk about that first. But then there's a second part where, and then you journal as required in a sense. So it's not a
Mhm.
to do in the morning, got to get my journaling done or I'll be mad at myself. This is more of a thing that sets a stage to springboard. So let's talk about gratitude first. What does that experience do to you to write just three things, or sometimes 10, or?
Yeah, sometimes more. If I'm really busy, it'll usually just be three things. But it can be often it's things that happened in that day. So it kind of helps me to look over the day and think about what were the good things, especially if you had a bad day. If you can find some things that were actually valuable, or even if you just learned from the bad experiences. But sometimes it's in my life. Sometimes when you have a really bad day, you actually can't find three good things. So you think about maybe your close relationship with your mom, for example, that has definitely made it in with my mom. But like yesterday, for example, it was biking with my mom and seeing my grandpa. Couldn't visit him uh, closely, but I got to, visit with him from 2 meters away. And also reaching out to an old friend who I hadn't spoken to for a while. So those were some things that kind of helped me to, assess. I've gained some more confidence, for example, by reaching out to an old friend and trying to maintain my social networks, and keeping in touch with my family and, taking care of myself with bike riding. Um, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah. So I can see, like, just even as you're saying that, you're reliving that positive thing. So you're partially reliving it, but then also just acknowledging that not all of life is just whatever news you watched or whatever thoughts are ruminating around in your head, right? So that's
And
really
it's
cool.
kind of, I guess, finding the sacred in little experiences, like a bike ride with your mom means actually a lot of things. It's not just a bike ride, right? You can be in
Mm.
touch with nature. It's an expression of self-love. It's an opportunity to visit with other people. Um, so I think that's really important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see how it's just kind of like setting a bit of a stage where other things can be noticed, where other things
Mhm.
can happen. I like the idea of doing it right at the end of the day too. That's very interesting that it's just sort of sitting there as a get to do thing at the end of your day. And if it's just quick three things like drank, Slurpee, ate, supper, like it can be really simple. But talk a little bit more about how does that spill out into a longer journaling, like, and what would that look like?
hmm So when I go traveling, I make the effort to journal every day, definitely. Because I just don't want to forget some of my experiences, but I think traveling is a great learning experience. And so then I take that into my regular life. Sometimes when maybe I've had a bad day or I have something very complex that I need to think through, instead of, banging my head against the wall, thinking through it and spinning the same phrases around in my head over and over, I'll, write it down. And I'm definitely not trained in cognitive behavioral therapy at all, but I think it's quite effective. So, for example, if you um, were thinking, maybe you had a thought that was quite negative and you're ruminating about it, You can write that down and list, what supports this thought and what is the evidence that is against this, and use logic to sort things out. And I find once you actually get it on paper, you can realize maybe the flaws in your logic, or the heuristics that you were using to jump to conclusions, and you can really reason yourself out of crises. And
Mm-hmm.
it's good to document anything that might be momentous. You can also use that for good things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my limiting journaling, like I've got a journal here I write in sometimes. And there's another practice that I've never been good at is called the morning pages, where you sit down and write 3 pages of whatever free form. And for
Mm-hmm.
some reason that doesn't work great for me, but in the times where I've managed to string it together, I've managed to find reoccurring thoughts. That's where journaling has revealed in my life when I journal, and I'm like, oh, here I go. I'm going down the same bunny hole again. And because I'm writing and it's slow and now you have to think, I get a chance to like, nope, that's exactly what I wrote 2 days ago. Why am I still writing the same thing again? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're right. You're engaging a different version of wrestling with thoughts, more than just letting them fly around in your head. You're pinning them down, and I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what metaphor to put there, but that works out well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, no, those are excellent things. Well, before I let you go, I wanted to talk. It sounds like we actually go to the same island for nature experiences. You bike there because you're a little closer to getting there. But talk a bit about how nature, just to finish off our interview here. How does that encounter then matter more so than just opening a window?
Mm-hmm. So I mentioned a little bit earlier when I was just talking with you, but I think the intention is the most important thing about spirituality, and that you can find sacredness wherever you go. So for me, I especially find sacred spaces in nature. And if you're dealing with something difficult, just going out for a walk, that's a great way to deal with anxiety, for example. But I think you can be in touch with the earth, and it gives you perspective, about everything is alive. And so sometimes it seems so powerful to just go for a walk and to hear the birds and the rustling of the wind in the trees. And it brings your own life into perspective. So I find nature very calming, and I always exercise outside. I find it more beneficial to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of you hitting two birds with one stone. You can spend time outside and also take care of yourself while you're exercising. But I've loved nature my whole life, and I think that's kind of why I went into biology.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I can hear it in you. Yeah, there's this emotional side that you're treating well, but this other intellectual side that you're not neglecting in all this. And
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some great wisdom you've glanced off. Just you said it so casually. It's like the setting of intention, the being intentionally present. I mean, the journaling makes you intentionally present. The smelling, the walking, the being. Like there's an intentionality there. Again,
Mm-hmm.
and the theme that I've just discovered in all of these things is just building a capacity to be, again, pick a metaphor, more rounded, more centered, more stable, more aware, I guess would be part of it too. So,
Mm-hmm.
well,
And I
thank you
think you
so
can bring
much.
that into anything you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that'll be important as you launch into a fourth year of highly academic studies here. So good luck with everything that might look like. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. And yeah, that
No
was great.
problem. Thank you for having me.
That's right. And then magical screen cut and it finishes.
Excellent.
It's like one of those old 80s shows. Are we done? All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.